Okay, people, I'm back. And now I continue my story. I will start from the last paragraph I read and read it again. Susie was frightened by the sight of the cuts and scars on Cindy's wrist. She wanted to scream because she can't believe that her best friend is a cutter. But she didn't because she didn't want to frighten Cindy. Cindy did not need any more stress on her. Susie froze in silence for a few moments, and then she finally figured out what she wanted to say. Before Susie began to speak, Cindy broke out in tears again. It was as if Cindy knew what Susie was going to say. Susie hugged Cindy, trying to calm her down. And then she asked, "When did you start cutting, Cindy?" Cindy was still crying, so she could not speak clearly. Susie waited and held until she finally could speak. Once Cindy could talk again, she said she has been cutting. Susie couldn't believe what she just heard. She couldn't believe that her best friend hid something that serious from her for 2 years. Susie thought that they told each other everything. So much was running through Susie's mind at once. Susie didn't care about what was going on in her mind because only one question stuck out to her the most. She finally asked Cindy why she started cutting. Cindy answered in a quiet voice. Cindy said, "I have been getting bullied at school, and the pain from arguing with my parents have been the major issue." She paused for a moment. Cutting was a way of relief and a way to escape the real world. "I used to only cut at night in my bedroom, but lately I can't control it anymore, and I finally cracked at school today. I had enough and just gave up. I tried to hide it, and I tried to hold off until I got home, but I couldn't do it. Everything started flooding back to me, so I couldn't wait. I had to do it," Cindy said. Susie felt so helpless because she didn't know what to do for Cindy. Susie got up and went to her closet and grabbed a journal and gave it to Cindy. As she gave it to her, she said, "Cindy, please don't cut anymore. I never used this journal and I want you to have it. Try writing in this when you need to escape. If you need to, just keep it private, but use it, please, Cindy. I don't want to see you cutting. If you can't hold back, then just know my door is always open for you, and so are my ears, and you can tell me anything, and I promise you I will never judge you. And I promise you I will always keep a secret." Susie also knew that Cindy had a knife on her, so she asked Cindy to give her knife to her. Cindy handed it over to Susie as she said, "Thank you, Susie. You are the only one who understands me, and thank you for everything you are doing for me. I really appreciate it." Susie smiled and said, "I am glad I could help, and I am really glad you told me." After that, Susie walked Cindy back home. They said bye to each other at Cindy's front door because she didn't know what was going to happen when she came in the house. Cindy knew that someone was going to start yelling when she entered the house because every day when she got home, someone was always yelling. That is why Cindy never brought any friends home. Well, after Susie started to head back to her house, Cindy went inside. Cindy was right about the yelling. Her mother was yelling at her because she never called and said where she was going. Cindy didn't call because she knew that her parents didn't really care. Sorry about that, I'm tired. Cindy ran to her room and locked the door. Everything was flooding back to her again. She wanted to cut again, and she had a knife hidden in a drawer. She remembered that she promised Susie that she would not cut. She had the journal right beside her that Susie gave her. She remembered that she told Susie she would try to use the journal instead of cutting. A lot was going on at the time. She had tears running down her face. She saw that she had a pen next to her. She grabbed the pen and the journal, opened the journal, and started to write as much as she could. She was so focused in the writing, that she didn't realize her mother was still yelling at her outside her bedroom door. She couldn't understand a word that her mother was saying. She honestly didn't care about what she was saying either. She knew that if she knew what her mother was saying, she would be in more pain than she already is. She couldn't handle the pain it would cause. She tried to not worry about anything and just to write out her problems, but it was getting harder and harder to do. She wrote all night in the journal, and she couldn't sleep at all. The next morning, she sent Susie a text saying, "Thank you for the journal, and we need to talk at school today." Then she waited for Susie to respond back. Susie responded back to Cindy, "No problem, Cindy. I'm glad I could help you. And we can talk anytime you want, Cindy." Cindy was glad to have a friend like Susie. Susie was Cindy's only friend that knew she was a cutter, and Cindy wanted to keep it that way. They both lived within walking distance of their school. They both started to head to school. It was a good morning for both the girls because Cindy got out of her house before her mother got up. She ran out of the house as fast as she could because she knew that if her mother got up, she would start yelling at her again. Cindy could not handle another yelling incident already that morning. Susie was worried about Cindy, but she didn't show it because she didn't want anyone to ask her what was wrong. Susie couldn't betray Cindy's trust. Cindy couldn't handle someone betraying her right now, and Susie knew that. Plus, Susie couldn't betray her best friend like that in the first place. Susie was too kind and respectful to do something like that. Susie was a great friend, and Cindy could never ask for anything better. Susie had a problem, though. She wanted Cindy to get help, and she knew that she wouldn't get help on her own. She could not break Cindy's trust. Cindy just told Susie about her deepest secret, which shows that she definitely trusts Susie. Cindy needs someone she can trust. She couldn't handle someone breaking her trust right now. They both met each other at the school doors. They got to school early so they could talk. They went to the side of the school to talk. Cindy was looking kind of down. Susie seen she was down and asked what was wrong. Cindy was upset about the day before and pulled out the journal that Susie gave her and asked her to read what she wrote. Susie was a little concerned when she said that. Susie gently took the journal from Cindy's hands and started to read what she wrote. Susie almost started crying from worry and fear. Cindy knew she was worried about her, so she figured it would be okay that she read her journal. Cindy didn't know what to say. Susie was very concerned about Cindy after she read what she wrote the night before. Susie asked Cindy if she was going to try and get help. Cindy paused for a moment, then she answered, "I had tried." Then she answered, "I have tried, but when I do get help, it gets worse." "Is that why you haven't told any of us that you were cutting?" Susie asked. "Yes, that is why, and because I didn't want to be treated or thought of differently." Cindy says she was always treated differently when she told someone of her secrets. She didn't want that to happen again. Cindy was trying not to break her promise. She tries her best not to every day. Cindy had the urge to cut again, but she promised Susie to fight it. She kept her promise the night before, but she didn't know how long she can keep that promise. The urge was so strong that her wrist was throbbing and her eyes were filled with tears. That urge was too strong for her to fight it again. She wrote and wrote and wrote until she couldn't write any longer. She fell asleep with the pen in her hand. Her journal was already a quarter of the way filled in one night. She knew that it wouldn't last long. She had so much going on that night, she couldn't handle it anymore. The writing helped her a lot, but she couldn't use the journal forever. Writing doesn't solve everything. Writing lists the drama, but it doesn't solve it. Writing won't last forever, but it can help for the time being. "I will search for someone to help me," Cindy told Susie. Susie was glad that she was going to look for help. Cindy went to a counselor at the school, and she said that she wanted help. The school counselor got mad at her, so she left. Then she went to a professional counselor and did get help. The counselor sat her down and they talked for about an hour. She left like she felt like she could trust the counselor automatically because everything was confidential between them. She was wrong. That counselor didn't care about the law. She shared all of her secrets with her coworkers, so she didn't go there anymore. She didn't know what to do anymore. She told Susie her experiences with counselors the next day at school. Susie understood why Cindy didn't like counselors. So she told Cindy that she will be her counselor when she needs it. Susie knew how Cindy felt, so she was always open when she needed help or just a listening ear. Susie has been in the situation where she had no one to talk to because no one would listen to her. Cindy was glad she had a friend like Susie to talk to. She never had a friend like her before. Cindy smiled as bright as the sun when she heard Susie say that. It made Cindy's day when she heard that Susie cared about her so much. Cindy needed a friend like Susie a long time ago. Cindy wondered why it took so long for Susie to become part of her life. She didn't care why it took so long for Susie to become part of her life because she realized that all that matters is she was a part of it now. Susie was a life changer for Cindy. After that day, they were inseparable, and nothing could change their relationship. The school day went by pretty fast for both of the girls. Cindy wanted the day to be over more than Susie did. Cindy had an instinct that she was going to use her journal up tonight. Her life was based on drama routines. She always had the same routine. She knew that something was going to happen when she got home again. She just wanted that drama to be over. She was not stable enough not to use the journal tonight. Yet, the hard part is having enough ink in her pen to write out her issues and to avoid the urge to cut. Her wrist was throbbing so bad it felt like her wrist was begging her to release the blood. They made plans at lunch to hang out after school together at Susie's house. The final bell rung to signal that it was time to go home. The girls gathered their stuff up and met at the front doors of the school. Once they met by the doors of the school, they started to walk to Susie's house together. They were trying to stay in a positive mood, so they made jokes the whole time they were walking together. But Susie noticed that there was something wrong with Cindy. Once they made it to Susie's house, they went straight inside to her bedroom so they could talk. Susie asked Cindy what was wrong. Cindy told Susie that her wrist was throbbing and it felt like her wrist was begging her to release blood from her wrist, like there was too much blood in her wrist. Susie became very concerned for Cindy's health at the moment. A lot was going on in both of their minds. Neither one wanted to speak at first. Neither one of the girls knew what they should do. Susie was proud of Cindy for resisting the urge to cut, but Susie was also concerned that the cutting caused serious damage to Cindy's health. Susie noticed that Cindy was actually starting to shake like she was cold. Susie went next to Cindy and asked if she was okay, because her eyes started to water a little bit also. Cindy said that she was a little cold and the urge to cut was getting even stronger. Susie became very concerned for Cindy's health. Susie grabbed a light blanket from her closet and wrapped it around Cindy. Then she went downstairs and asked her mom to take them to the hospital. Her mom was worried, but she didn't ask any questions and said to get Cindy downstairs to the car. Susie went upstairs to find Cindy rocking back and forth on the floor. Susie was really worried about Cindy and rushed to her side to try and get her downstairs as fast as she could. Susie was fighting her tears. Cindy could barely support herself at the time, so Susie wrapped Cindy's arm around her shoulder to support her and walked her down the stairs from her bedroom and out to the car. Susie's mom seen her struggling to support Cindy, so she rushed over to help her get into the car. Susie sat in the back seat in the back of the car so Cindy could lie down on her lap and try to relax. Susie tried to calm her down by petting her head because she knew it helped her. Susie's mom rushed them to the hospital as fast as she could. Susie felt Cindy's forehead and she noticed that Cindy was sweating profusely. Cindy was also shaking even more and more, and she started to break out into tears. Susie began to break out into tears as they arrived at the hospital. Susie was very worried about Cindy and told her mom to hurry and get a wheelchair for Cindy while she got Cindy to sit up. Susie's mom came out with the wheelchair for Cindy, so Susie helped get her in the chair and push her inside. Susie knew better than to call Cindy's parents. Cindy's parents would make everything worse for her. They always have and always will. That's one reason why Cindy was in this mess in the first place. Susie signed Cindy in and tried to comfort her while they waited in the waiting room for their turn. After the nurse read her slip, she was called up first. The doctor checked all of her vitals and found out that her heart was beating extremely fast. The doctor got her into the first room he could and gave her something to calm her heart rate down. Susie wouldn't leave Cindy's side for anything in the world. Cindy's heart rate only slowed down a little bit, so the doctors gave her a sedative to sleep. Susie told her mom to make sure the hospital would not inform Cindy's parents. Susie told the doctors that she would handle that when she is better. Susie was way too worried about Cindy to deal with the drama of Cindy's parents. Susie also knew that if Cindy woke up seeing her parents in the room, her heart rate would speed up dramatically again, and Cindy could not have that. Even though they are her parents, they treated her like she was a piece of crap. Cindy tried her hardest to please them, but she still was treated like crap. She never really had someone who loved her in her life until Susie came along. Cindy finally woke up to see that Susie never left her side that whole time she was asleep. She still wasn't back to normal, but her heart rate finally slowed down. Cindy smiled as she seen Susie's face right next to her. Cindy grabbed Susie's hand and held her hand. Susie smiled right back at Cindy as she gently squeezed her hand. You could see it in their eyes how much they truly cared about each other. They knew that they could not ask for a better friend than each other. Cindy was so glad that someone cared about her so much. Cindy realized she wasn't alone in the fight to stop cutting. Cindy thought to herself, if Susie cares about her so much, why did I cut? But she couldn't think of an answer. Everything was going good and started to look good for Cindy. That was until her wrist started to throb again. Susie could tell that something was wrong with Cindy again. Cindy started to squeeze Susie's hand again. It scared Susie so much. She was nervous, so she asked Cindy what was wrong. Cindy said that her wrist was throbbing again. Susie didn't know what to do for Cindy. It was getting really bad for her. She didn't know how to help Cindy. Cindy's wrist started to swell up a little bit. Susie told Cindy to call the nurse's station to get the doctor back to the room. Cindy's doctor came back to the room to see what the problem was. The doctor seen Cindy's wrist and told the nurse to hurry up and get an ice pack. The nurse came back with the ice pack and handed it to the doctor, and then he put the ice pack on her wrist to calm her nerves in her wrist. The doctor told Cindy to relax her wrist. The swelling started to go down after about 15 minutes. Cindy was admitted so the doctors could keep an eye on her for at least a night. When Susie heard that Cindy was being admitted, she never left her side and refused to leave her side. Susie refused to go home, so the doctors finally agreed to let her spend the night with Cindy. Cindy was glad that someone was there with her all night because she needed the support in the middle of the night. The middle of the night is where she struggles to avoid cutting the most. Everything was going good until late that night. Cindy was not able to sleep that night. Susie was too nervous to fall asleep, so they stayed up and talked the whole time. All was good until Cindy's wrist started to hurt again. Susie noticed that Cindy's wrist was changing to purple again. Cindy's nerves were acting up again, and Susie could tell that she had to do something. Cindy didn't want to call the nurse in the room because she knew what was happening. She knew that the urge was coming back again. Susie had some Sharpies in her purse, and she remembered what she had seen on the computer a while back. She saw a small picture that was on her screen as an advertisement. It was a picture of a girl's wrist and a small butterfly drawn on it. The ad said, "Help spread cutting awareness" at the top, and at the bottom it had a poem that she wrote down. She remembered where she left the poem and grabbed it to read to Cindy. She read the poem to herself first, and then she agreed that it would be a good thing for Cindy to hear. She read, "Butterfly, if you cut them, they will surely die. But what happens when there is no butterfly? When the names you write are all a lie, and the ones you love will always die. When all you can do is cry, no matter how hard you try, you always kill the butterfly. Even though you wish to see them fly and wave to them and say goodbye, you'll always kill the butterfly." By Spider. That poem made Cindy cry. She knew that Susie had Sharpies with her and asked to borrow them. Susie handed Cindy all the Sharpies she had with her, and Cindy started to uncap one of Susie's Sharpies and draw a butterfly on her wrist. As Cindy did that, Susie realized that Cindy's wrist started to go back to normal color again. Susie and Cindy were both amazed as they realized that. The urge to cut also went away. Both the girls were extremely happy. Cindy realized that drawing a butterfly on her wrist will stop the urge. So every time she had the urge to cut, she drew a butterfly on her wrist. The doctor came in the morning to see how Cindy was doing, and seeing that she was laughing again. The doctor was amazed to see her laughing again, instead of shaking or sleeping. Since the doctor seen that she was perfectly fine, to let her go home. After she was released from the hospital, they both knew they were going to have to face Cindy's parents. Cindy started to get anxious again because of fear, so she started to rub her butterfly again. Susie noticed that Cindy was rubbing it and asked if she was okay. Cindy said no, she was having an issue with the thought of going home to her parents. Susie was worried herself about Cindy facing her parents in general, let alone by herself. Susie told Cindy that she would talk to her parents for her if she wanted her to. Cindy said please do. So Susie told her parents for her. Susie raced to her room as Cindy raced to her room as Susie was talking to Cindy's parents. Cindy's parents were angry at Cindy for not calling them and telling them she was in the hospital. Cindy's mom started to yell at Susie for not having them informed. Susie heard Cindy upstairs crying and raced to her side to see what was wrong. Susie found Cindy rocking back and forth on her bedroom floor. Susie rushed to Cindy's side and helped her calm down. Cindy was scared because she heard her mom yelling at Susie. After Cindy told Susie that, Susie got up and locked her bedroom door so they could talk. After Susie locked the door, Cindy started to calm down a little bit faster. Susie texted her mom and told her to go home and she will walk home later. Susie knew how to calm Cindy down. She knew that all she had to do is talk to her and keep her happy. Susie and Cindy 2 hours. They were both very happy together. After Susie knew that Cindy was feeling, she told Cindy that she was going to head home to do some schoolwork. Also told Cindy that she could call, text, or even come over to her house anytime. No matter how late it was in the day or if Susie had plans, whenever she needed to talk, Susie knew that Cindy needed her a lot, and she was going to do anything she could to help Cindy. A bond between best friends could never break. Okay, people, I read about half my story, and I will be back to read the rest.